Hello, and today I'm going to show you how to make Snickerdoodle cookie bars. So cookie bars is a cookie dough that instead of shaping into actual bite-sized cookies or 2-bite cookies, we are going to bake them in a 9x13 pan. So they're thick, and then we're going to cut them out as cookie bars. So kind of like a brownie, but it is a cookie dough. All right, and the flavor we're going to focus on is Snickerdoodles. So let's get started. So you can see on my recipe that I have projected that you have access to on Schoology, and your teacher will give to you, obviously, before the demo. You want to always make sure you're looking at it. So this recipe calls for a cup of butter, which is equivalent or equal to 2 sticks. Equivalent means equal to. That word is used a lot in baking. So we need 2 sticks of butter, all right? Then we are going to need 2 cups, okay? So 2 dry measuring cups of granulated white sugar, all right, which I've already measured, so 2 cups, all right? Then we are going to need a half teaspoon, okay? A half teaspoon of salt. So a half teaspoon is a measuring spoon, and you need a half. Let me find my half. Okay, so a half teaspoon of just regular salt, all right, just regular iodized salt like table salt. So we have that already measured, so you can see it's a very small amount. It's hard to even see it. And this is our measuring spoon, half teaspoon, all right. Then we're going to need 2 eggs, all right, so just 2 regular eggs, all right. Then we're going to need vanilla. So there's a lot of vanilla in this recipe, all right? So just good old vanilla extract, all right? So mine's a big bottle. You probably have a smaller one, vanilla extract. It can be imitation. So sometimes students are like, does it have, when you go to the store, it's like real or imitation. You can use either. The real is more expensive. The imitation is cheaper. So we always use the imitation. It's totally fine. And you need 3 teaspoons. So 3 teaspoons. All right, 3 of these, or the equivalent, which means it's equal to 1 tablespoon. So 3 teaspoons equals 1 tablespoon. In the recipe, it says 3 teaspoons, or you can do 1 tablespoon. I'm explaining to you in the demo. You would obviously place in there in the teaspoon 3 times, and then here is my amount. Okay, and then we need 2 cups of all-purpose flour, so scoop and level, which I've already measured. All right, so my mise en place, meaning I pre-measured all of my ingredients, is good to go. So the next thing I am going to do is I am going to get my pan ready. So this is a 9x13 pan. And what I'm going to do is I am going to grease my pan. Okay, so this is a 9x13 pan. So we are not making little cookie balls. So how do you know what a 9x13 pan is? Usually this is made for use for cakes. You make brownies in here. And how do I know it's 9x13? Because if I take a ruler and measure, it's 13 inches on the side, and then the other side is 9 inches. Okay. Sometimes pans are 8x8. Obviously, they would all equal on each side. You can make these cookie bars in an 8x8 pan. The problem is they're going to be thicker, so they're going to take longer to bake. So a 9x13 pan is perfect. So the first step in your recipe says to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. So, and then prep your pan. So I'm at school, so I'm using a convection oven. Obviously, your oven's going to look a little bit different. So I'm going to turn my oven on. I'm going to set it to 350 degrees. And I'm going to let it warm up. All right, I'm going to turn off my timer. At your house, you'll set it to 350. Wait for it to be preheated before you bake. Do that at the beginning. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is prep our pan. So I am just going to stop projecting my screen so you can just see me. So I preheated my pan. Now I am preheating my oven. Now I'm going to get my pan ready. So my 9x13 pan is ready to go. I'm going to be using shortening to grease my pan. So I'm going to take a paper towel. I'm going to dip into my shortening. So shortening is a type of fat, and And it doesn't add, it really is just for texture. It doesn't add any flavor. It just helps with texture in a baked product, or you can use it for greasing pans. This is what we use at school. This is the way we grease all our pans. At your house, you might have like a cooking spray, which would be totally fine. You can also do this with butter, margarine. I just like to always use shortening. So you just take it and make sure that every crevice of your pan is greased, just like so. All right. And the reason why you're going to grease your pan is so that the cookie bars do not stick to the bottom of the pan. Okay. So that they easily can come out. All right. So I have prepped my pan. I'm going to set this off to the side. And now I'm going to start mixing our batter. Okay. So for our batter, I have my mixing bowl. And I'm going to be using my rubber scraper. All right. And in my bowl, I am going to mix together my 2 sticks of butter, which equals 1 cup. Okay, each stick is a half cup. All right. And then I'm just going to start smashing that. And now my butter is at room temperature, so it's super easy for me to mix. All right. You can use a mixer if you want, but I'm just going to mix this by hand. Just for the sake that you can, most of you probably will do this by hand, so I want to make sure you see that. The next thing you're going to do is you are going to add your sugar. All right. So as I said, we are using 2 cups of sugar. So 2 of these granulated sugar. All right. And now I'm just going to mix this. And this process is called creaming. All right. So you're going to mix this until all of your butter and your sugar melts into your butter. It's a light and fluffy mixture. Just as a reminder, you go around the sides. And how do you know when it's all creamed? It's light and fluffy, and it's going to be a pale yellow color. Okay. So I'm just going to be right back. So I'll do that and we'll be right back to keep going. So we are back and I have finished creaming my butter and sugar together. So you can see it's nice and light and fluffy, and all of that sugar has been incorporated into that fat. All right. So the next thing I am going to do is I am going to incorporate my ½ teaspoon of salt. All right. So the salt is going to balance those flavors. So it's, as you can see, we had 2 cups of sugar. That's a lot. So we don't want it to be overly sweet. So the salt balances that out, which is why we are adding just a small amount. The next thing we're going to add in is our vanilla extract, which is 3 teaspoons or 1 tablespoon. All right. And then we are going to add in our 2 eggs. All right. So I am just going to crack the egg on the side of my bowl. And it's always best, as mentioned previously, that you always crack your eggs in the bowl prior to incorporating into your cookie dough, just to make sure that there's nothing wrong with the egg. And then you're just going to pre-beat. And this helps you avoid over mixing your cookie batter. Okay. So I am just going to mix this into here. The egg is our binder. So what does that mean? It means it's going to serve as an ingredient that helps let the wet ingredients marry the dry ingredients, so you have a nice cohesive cookie dough. All right. So to mix this, you just go around the sides. And this is where, if you were using a mixer, it obviously would be a lot faster, but you can see that I can easily do this by hand. So how do I know when I'm done mixing this together? It's going to be a very wet mixture, but all the egg will be incorporated. All right. So you're going to see more of a pale yellow wet mixture, just like so. It's going to be kind of grainy, which is normal because we have not incorporated our dry ingredients. All right. So this is good to go. All right. So the next thing we are going to be adding in is our flour. All right. Now if you look at the ingredients, there is no leavening agent here. So there's no baking powder or baking soda, because the egg will serve not only as a binder, but also as our leavener. So the egg will help make the product rise. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is incorporate our dry ingredients, which is our flour. All right. So I'm going to put our flour right into the bowl. And just as a reminder, you need 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 cups. And then you're going to go around the sides and you're going to mix this until you see no streaks of flour. All right, your dough is going to get pretty thick. All right, so I'll be back to show you what that looks like. All right, so we are back and my cookie dough is all done, which it looks beautiful. There are no streaks of any flour, so we are ready to put this into our pan. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get our pre-greased pan that we already greased, our 9 by 13, and you are going to put your cookie dough right into the center. So obviously, if we were making this as Snickerdoodle cookies, we would refrigerate it. This is a very wet dough, and then you would use a portion scoop to make your cookie portion and make your cookie balls. And so this is Snickerdoodle. So Snickerdoodle, a common trait of Snickerdoodles is that you put cinnamon and sugar on the outside. So if you were making these as actual like little cookies, you would portion and then you would roll in cinnamon and sugar. We are going to make cinnamon and sugar topping and put that on the top. All right. So now what we're going to do, you put all your cookie dough in. We are going to level this off to the best of our ability using our rubber scraper. So you start in the center and then you kind of distribute the dough and you rotate it around to make it as smooth as you can. It's not going to be like perfect, like, you know, frosting. This is very thick, okay? But you want to even it out the best you can. If it's too thin on one side and too thick on the other, it will not bake evenly. So you want it to be as portioned as you can. And by doing that, to achieve that, you just keep rotating, kind of spreading out. All right, just like so. All right, and then took a little out. Okay, like so. And then what we're gonna do, just to make sure it's as even as you can, you kind of just level it off on your tabletop, just like so. All right, put that off to the side. The last thing we're gonna incorporate is our topping. So if you look at your recipe, I will just project that one more time so you know what I'm talking about. If you look at the recipe, it has the cookie dough on the left, and then on the right it says ingredients for topping. Topping goes on the top of these cookie bars prior to baking because they'll melt into the cookie as it bakes. All right, so we're going to incorporate 2 tablespoons of sugar and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. All right, so let's do that. All right, so what I have already done, all right, so I have measured my 2 tablespoons of sugar, right, just granulated sugar. I put it right into a little mixing cup, and then we are going to measure 2 teaspoons of our cinnamon. So with cinnamon, you are just going to use regular ground cinnamon, all right? And then most cinnamon, this is a spice, so you would just go into here, has a natural leveler right built into it like so, and then you would incorporate into your sugar. I've already pre-measured this, so I have my 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. I'm just gonna pour that over top the sugar, and then I'm going to take my fork, and I'm just going to combine this until that cinnamon and sugar is all mixed together. How do you know when it's mixed together? It's very cinnamony, which is good because it's going to add a lot of flavor, Snickerdoodle taste to our cookie. But you want to, how do you know? You just see that the sugar and cinnamon is kind of cohesively together like so. Okay. Now what you're going to do is you're going to kind of sprinkle this around on your cookie bar, just like so. Remember, you put this on prior to baking. All right, and then you can kind of shake it around to make sure it gets evenly distributed, just like so. Leave any excess on there, it will melt into the cookie, and you're gonna bake this for 15 minutes. And how do you know when it's set? The edges will be very lightly, they'll be lightly brown and baked. And then you're going to take it out. It's going to cool. I'll show you what it looks like, but you don't want to overbake. So 15 minutes is literally the perfect timing. You don't want to overbake these bars because you want them to be nice and chewy. I'll show you what they look like when they're done. All right, so the Snickerdoodle cookie bars have come out of the oven. So you can see that some of the cinnamon and sugar has melted into the cookie, and then there's some still on the top, which is fine for garnish. We'll add extra flavor. You can see that it's golden brown on the outside. So what you're gonna do now is you're gonna wait for these to cool. As it cools, my pan is very hot. So that's why I'm wearing my oven mitt. I would suggest always use oven mitts for safety. I'm gonna take just a knife and I'm just going to go around the edges just to loosen the cookie bar from the edges, okay? Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wait for it to completely cool. I would say at least an hour, all right? And then you can cut your bars out of the pan, okay? Now, when you're cutting bars out of a pan, you can do it in a couple of different ways. Because we greased our pan nicely, you can literally dump this over and the whole cookie will come out as one. You wanna make sure though it's completely cool. Then you would go about cutting the bars as to how many you want. If you want a nice shaped bar, typically we sell these at our coffee bar and we get 8 out of each of these pans. So what you would do is I would cut it this way in half, then this way in half. So I would have 4 equal pieces. And then I would cut each of those in half. So it would be a nice size bar. If you were gonna make these for like friends or family, I mean, that's what I typically do. I would get 16 out of this opposed to the 8 that we sell them $1 for a big bar. But if I was serving this at like a party or something, I would just cut them into 16 pieces. Or, you know, at your house, you could just leave them as is and then people can cut what they want off of it. All right. So if this is something that is of interest to you, I hope you enjoy making it and I hope you enjoy eating it. Thank you so much.